But yeah, I don't think I'd spend money on it.
All right, fair enough then.
Yeah.
We have about.
You want to read an email?
Do we have any good emails?
I mean, I feel like we haven't read an email on the show in a long fucking time.
Probably haven't, but our newest email is from October 20th.
Who gives a shit?
All right, here we go. This is from Sinanthony.
Okay.
Hi there, Feck hosts. Firstly, I want to say thanks to all of you for producing your show. To introduce myself, I'm pretty new to your podcast, but I've watched each and every FEC episode on YouTube because your shows consistently entertain me.
YouTube viewer.
Even when I disagree with your views on games.
Nice.
I'm about to start pursuit of a PhD in biochemistry, and when I get stuck doing monotonous laboratory tasks in the lab I work in, I like to listen to you guys make the hours pass. I especially enjoy Nosferatu's antics. And as a sexually conflicted gamer who tires of the nerdy straight male demographic that is so pervasive in gaming culture, I also greatly appreciate the touch of diversity provided by Callie.
Not any longer. Although he's here in spirit.
He is. One big reason I keep listening is that pretty much every episode makes me crack up laughing at least once. I hope you all never cease making dick and fart jokes.
Good news for you. Doesn't seem to be
a problem
going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. So on to the crux of my email. I noticed Nate and some of the other hosts often bemoaning some of the shortcomings of modern gaming, such as microtransaction madness, superfluous DLC, and the fall of certain franchises.
I think that's superfluous.
Superfluous
for sure.
DLC and the fall of certain franchises from their former glory. However, it seems to me that despite these complaints, most of you keep yourselves well-versed in new games and consoles, as your discussions stay pretty current. I pose this question to all. Are there any older titles from generations of consoles now defunct that you haven't played but want to play? Or did you already exhaust these platforms when they were first released? If not, then why not go back and seek out the superior games you missed out on instead of always forging ahead and buying into modern games that are often worse by comparison?
This is a great question.
Do you perchance find older games unplayable due to being dated?
Great question. Who is that from again?
This is from St. Anthony. There's actually still two more big paragraphs. But maybe we would answer the question first.
Okay, we'll start with that, yeah.
All right.
So first thing is that I'm really glad that we're reading this because it praises the two people that aren't here.
Take that.
That's the best part of it. So thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And glad that you like the show. By the way, you should also, if you want to extend your listening and you want to get a little bit of Callie in your life, make sure to check out checkpointradio.com. When it comes to backlog, my backlog of games, I do actually try to work through them. Mm-hmm. That's why I have a Vita, right? Like, my biggest back catalog of games, we had talked about it earlier when I talked about my game collecting. My biggest glut of collection when I did the most game collecting ever was during the PS1,
right.
Little bit into the PS2 era. And that's my biggest backlog. And so at some point I realized I was buying games that I wasn't playing and cut back my amount of buying. And so I had to, because I was smoking weed. I had to figure out how to continue to buy weed. But
priorities.
Yeah, right, exactly. But the thing is, though, is that, when you do a radio show or a podcast about video games, you kind of got to keep up on the latest shit.
Regardless of if you like them or in some cases, if you're even playing them.
Right, like unless you want to do a specifically retro gaming show, which none of us really wanted to pigeonhole ourselves with anything
Too
that
many
we're
of them
doing.
already.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we can do that as an occasional, special...
Right, exactly. I don't think that older games are unplayable. Quite the opposite. I actually, I played through the first disc of Xenogears and then stalled out not that long ago, which is not surprising considering the state of that second disc. But
I will say they're unplayable only if they're slow, responsive controls. I feel like graphics don't bother me, old battle systems don't bother me if I know I'm playing an old game, but if it comes down to I push a button or the battle system's really clunky, I won't be able to play it.
See, a lot of my back catalog is turn-based RPGs, so even if they don't work that well, I can still kind of forge through it.
See, I feel like his question or her question wasn't necessarily so much referring to backlogs, because the first thing that I thought of when they asked this was games that I never even bothered to try to get into. I have recently. Obviously, the Metal Gear Solid franchise is one of them.
Right.
I actually really wish that that 5 hadn't been spoiled for me, because that moment that Nika bawled about on air
melted
for
down.
the entire show.
I don't know if I could ever replay the game.
Would have been so amazing to experience just firsthand in a pure format. But Metal Gear is one of those series for me. The Dragon Quest series, I feel like it's almost as synonymous as Final Fantasy is, and
sure,
I've never touched any of them before.
Really?
Yeah,
I have quite a few of them. I have
I've never touched Dragon Quest either.
I have a few of them. Okay, so and the thing is again, I do have to cite my Vita, because I go and I buy those titles all the time. Suikoden 1 and 2, never owned them. Don't have a physical copy of them. They're on my Vita. Do want to play them.
Good, play them both.
They're on my list. They may be the next thing that I play.
Please do.
Yes.
Now that I feel like I've worked through my Pokemon bug, I definitely.
Actually, Suikoden should still help you scratch that itch, because instead of collecting Pokemon, you're collecting the Stars of Destiny.
There you go.
Yep.
But there are other older games like that I do want to check out, and I do like the fact that a lot of them are getting re-released,
yes,
right? Like whether they're PS2 classic or PS3 games that I never got to play on the PS4. That's why I'm not there are people who get really butthurt about re-releases. I'm not one of them. There are enough.
I'm more likely to check out old games if they get a re-release.
Totally.
Like Secret of Mana is coming out. I've never played the first. I played the Secret of Mana 2 that never came to America through an emulator, but the original Secret of Mana I never touched, and so I'm definitely going to play the remake.
The Super Nintendo? Is that the one that you're talking about, Nika?
Yeah. I think the one that they're remastering completely for PS4.
I think that's the Super Nintendo game, right? I think it is.
I believe so. Yeah. Because the second one that I did play was also Super Nintendo, so I assume the first one was as well.
Because it's that's a great game right there. But I think that all of those things are valid. It's mostly time. I think it's just mostly time.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one.
Like I said, I've been working through this Pokemon thing, and I don't get to. I have maybe 2 or 3 games that I can play in tandem with one another, right? I don't need to keep a whole lot of plot points in my head for Pokemon. That's fine. I can just keep forward momentum on that.
Last time on Pokemon.
Right, exactly. And then, I'll have a console game that I'm playing. I was playing through Hellblade for a minute, and then what else? What else have I been playing on my console? Every once in a while, I'll plug a couple of hours into FF15, but it's cold out in my living room, so I don't play it all a whole ton during the winter. And then there's usually something that I'm playing on my PC. Where PUBG doesn't really count because you don't have to. It's literally you sit down. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. But it's been, obviously FF14, and then what else have I been playing recently? There's something else that I've been kind of tooling around with that I can't think of off the top of my head. But I've only got space in my head and time that I can allocate between 3, maybe 4 games at most. So that's, I think, really the biggest barrier for me for not playing more games. Yeah. If I could quit my day job. And just play video games, I'd fucking do that. I would do that in a heartbeat.
We're working on it.
Yep.
We're working on it. Nika, did you want to add anything? Any?
I've been racking my brain trying to think of one, but I feel like all the games I was interested in, I kind of got as a kid, and then growing up, I can't think of any that I regret not playing. I've never been interested in Monster Hunter or Dragon Quest, any of those, and I don't really care to go back and play them either.
Fire Emblem games was another one that kind of piqued my interest a little bit.
I tried Fire Emblem, and I think the newer ones maybe would be easier for me, but older, I was like, oh, I can't stand that, a character dies and they're dead or it's game over.
There's also games where it's I've heard that this is good for years, and then I sit down and play it, and I'm like, I don't know the fuck y'all talking about. Final Fantasy Tactics was like that for me. Mm-hmm. And I there is a bit of trepidation with every game that I buy where it's is this one going to suck? Because, even if I have it in my backlog, I don't know, So Breath of Fire was one of those where I was yeah, this could be good. And I was really excited to check it out. And then I was wow, this game is not good at all.
I think that I might have also tried that. It was kind of the same thing, actually. Yeah. In
the chat, Ryoku asking if I ever thought about Shin Megami Tensei. Nope, too weeb.
Too weeb.
Let's move on. You said there was...
yes, there was. So, Anthony goes on to say, my own perspective may be a bit unusual. As a child, I was a boring little shit and wasn't a serious gamer, only having a few essential Nintendo consoles and the most popular games for them. My parents didn't buy me very much, and I had no initiative for earning money to buy more video games as a teen. In fact, I initially missed out on all PlayStation things released prior to 2010 or so.
That sucks.
That sucks super.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shit in there.
The vast majority of my experience as a gamer had come as an adult. Once I started acquiring disposable income, I spent my entire adult life, so far, collecting and playing PS1, PS2, Nintendo DS, and PSP games I never got a chance to play as a kid. For example, I only played FF7, my favorite game, for the first time as a 23-year-old 4 years ago. I don't give a damn about the remake, by the way. Currently, I'm playing through Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3 for the first time. Anyways, I still have a huge list of old games, mostly JRPGs, I have acquired and want to play, and I prioritize them ahead of any new games because there are so many that have better reputations and just have higher quality gameplay than the newer things. I've had a ton of fun playing many PS1 games in particular for the first time, despite their age. Plus, they're mostly cheap to buy used now.
It's true.
The newest system I have is a PS3, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on much of anything on the PS4. Can any of you relate, or am I just a weirdo intent on digging up the past? Wishing you all the greatest in success and your broadcasting pursuits. Sid Anthony, a pretty new listener writing in from Alaska.
Ah, nice.
Wow.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So here's what I would say to that. I actually used to be a lot more like that. You know, especially when I had a lot of, limited income issues and stuff like that. College, right? Like I bought an Xbox 360 maybe 3 or 4 years after. No, maybe 2 years after it was like the latest new system.
That's when I got mine too, I think, actually.
Yeah, I've actually been a little bit behind the curve before it was, a stated part of my job responsibilities. So, yeah, no, I'm definitely with you. I think that there's, tons of, and the fact that the PS3 is at least a little bit backwards compatible, where you can shove a PlayStation 1 disc in there and it'll still boot up. I think that kind of stuff, you've got a ton of options for gaming.
Was actually in a disc replay yesterday, and they had a copy of Suikoden 2 for $90.
Whoa!
Which I think is actually cheaper than eBay or Amazon.
Oh, yeah. Like, you can't find one for cheaper than $80.
That's crazy.
Anywhere.
That's crazy.
You can buy it on the PSN for like $8. So you should.
Yeah. There was also, they had a copy of Final Fantasy Anthology for like under $5, Tactics for under $10, and then Game of the Year versions of like 7, 8, and 9 for under $10.
Wow.
If I hadn't stolen my girlfriend's, who she actually got it as a birthday present this year, and then I stole it from her, then I probably would have bought the FF7 one. Thief 75, please check it.
All right. Well, thanks for the email. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
That's actually a really good one. Glad you suggested the email thing.
Yeah.